Bombers are the undisputed aerial heavyweight champions of the world's air forces. They're big, they're heavy, and they carry an awesome punch right to the enemy's front door. Check your fuel and bomb load. The world's greatest ever bombers. Coming up on the greatest ever, the world's ultimate bombers. We'll get up close and personal with the latest high-tech Terminator and go flying in a World War II classic. Also on our list, dive bombers, torpedo bombers, and jet attack bombers. And you'll hear what it's like to drop the biggest bomb of all.
There's this huge, massive explosion. It turns the Pacific from night to day.
Military expert and writer Tom Clancy will tell it like it is.
Well, you know, the old saying is that fighter pilots make movies and bomber pilots make history.
We'll also meet the pilots and crew who've taken these planes to hell and back.
But the flak was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. So the fact that I'm here is just a luck of the draw.
Flying at that speed, at that height, seeing everything go past, and really, I think that's what everyone joins to do.
The world's greatest ever bombers are all fueled up, loaded for bear, and coming right at you. In the number 2 spot on the greatest ever bombers is one of the most recognizable planes of World War II, the B-17 Flying Fortress.
Yeah, the B-17 was a Cadillac of the bombers. Beautiful bird, absolutely gorgeous, the B-17.
I love this airplane because you could do an awful lot of damage to a B-17 and it'll still take you back.
With a crew of 10, the B-17 Flying Fortress served in every World War II combat zone, but is best known for daylight strategic bombing of German industrial targets. Cruising at 270 kilometers per hour, its maximum short-range bomb load was 8,000 kilos of iron, or dumb bombs. The media dubbed the bomber the Flying Fortress because of its 13 50 caliber machine guns.
As soon as I saw a German plane, I tried to get him in the sight, and if I had him in the sight, all I did was hit the trigger switches. Here comes one in this direction, another direction. Here he comes, Porter, get him, get him.
60 years ago, pilot Ken Hudnut and ball turret gunner Bud Porter flew the B-17 in combat. Without German fighters and flak to contend with, Greatest Ever took them for a flight down memory lane in the Liberty Belle.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It sure is.
Now you have the controls?
I got him.
Yes, sir. And if you just want to keep a left-hand turn coming around.
Boy, that thing is hard to steer, yeah.
The B-17's toughness was legendary. Losing an engine or a few feet of wing didn't knock it out of the sky.
The B-17 brought back so many with holes in them, vertical stabilizers shot off. Several came back with gunners flying the airplane back after the pilot, co-pilot, and sometimes navigator bombardier who were really exposed up front were blown out. It's a hell of an airplane.
So why could the B-17 take a beating and still manage to make it home?
The B-17 was tough because it just had extra metal. I always said it was sort of like the 1953 Buick philosophy, you know, just make it big, make it heavy.
Just confirms what I've always said, it's the greatest airplane ever built.
You're doing perfect.
It made me feel like I was 21 years old again, really did.
The B-17 dropped some 500,000 tons of bombs on European targets in daylight raids. But it came at a price. Almost 5,000 B-17s were shot down, with the loss of some 47,000 aircrew.
One time it's an airplane with 10 men, and the next minute it's just a big black puff. It was an experience that was worth $1 million that you wouldn't pay a nickel to do again.
It was only later in the war that the loss rate dropped. thanks in large part to the greatest ever fighter, the long-range bomber escort, the P-51 Mustang, which took on the Luftwaffe fighters.
It was the P-51 that really saved us, because then they could fly all the way into the target and all the way back.
So the B-17 stays in the #2 position of the greatest ever bombers. The bomber just couldn't live up to its nickname, the Flying Fortress, without the help of fighter escort. But for Ken and Bud, flying the B-17 remains a greatest ever experience.
It's a great airplane. Boeing built a super airplane, and in this is special good.
That's probably the greatest thrill I've had since World War II.
The B-52 is the greatest ever bomber. And the Buff's greatest ever achievement is without a doubt not dropping a nuke in anger.
Any weapon system is money well spent as long as you never have to use it. In the case of SAC and the B-52s, they never had to drop nuclear weapons on anybody, and that's the definition of winning the Cold War.
When it's all said and done, this B-52 will have performed its mission for almost 80 years. 80 years. No other bomber in history will be able to say that. The greatest ever bomber, the B-52.